Okay, if everyone is ready, we'll get started. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of May 10th to order. First item is approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next, adoption of the minutes.
Move adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
I have a correction to the minutes.
Yes.
On the April 26, 2021, the second part of 3.3 was moved by Sproul Kettler. I'm in there. I wasn't in there.
What page is that? Sorry, we've got a lot of minutes. Oh, minutes of this meeting.
Would somebody like to move the minutes adopted with the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, can you just repeat what the resolution was so that we know?
I didn't write down the resolution.
Oh.
Hold tight one sec. Until I find it.
So it was formally what?
It was Brown, I don't know. Brown Sullivan, and I think it's Sproul.
Would have been the Cumberland 125th anniversary report on April 26th at the Committee of the Whole. Does that sound
Right?
right?
Yeah, so it's Brown Kettler, and I think it should be Sproul Kettler. Sorry, I meant it to be a small thing.
Okay. Someone like to move?
Moved.
Seconder?
Second.
Favor? Opposed? Okay, carried.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're gonna, if it's correct, because we didn't actually hear from the corporate officer to go back and change a motion as to who made that motion after the fact. So why does Councillor Brown think that she wasn't part of that motion?
I just know I wasn't. I remember the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you all right with that, Rachel?
Yeah, if you like, I can double check and if there's an issue, I can bring it back.
Okay.
Recording.
Okay.
Next, receipt of committee meeting minutes.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Next, delegation. That council received the delegation of Kathy Peters, BC Anti-Human Trafficking Educator, Speaker, Advocate.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Just a minute, we have to vote on it.
Oh,
I know it's really hard on this. So someone like to move?
Move
Receipt.
receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Sorry for that. Welcome, Kathy. It's a pleasure to have you and to finally meet you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Human sex trafficking and sexual exploitation for the purpose of prostitution is the fastest growing crime in the world, and it is here. It is in every community in British Columbia. So what is human trafficking? It is a recruiting, transporting, transferring, receiving, holding, concealing, harboring, or exercising control over a person for the purpose of exploiting them. The key word is exploitation. This is modern day slavery. Here are some stats. 13 years old is the average age of recruitment into the sex industry, much younger for Indigenous girls. In Surrey and Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, the target age now is, this is shocking, is 10, 11, and 12-year-old girls. COVID has made this much worse. The traffickers are very organized and sophisticated. They're doing it online. 54% in the sex industry are Indigenous. They are severely overrepresented in the sex industry. This is the worst case of systemic racism in the country. I shared this with the BC Indigenous Chiefs and Minister of Justice David Lametti a couple of months ago. At the very least, Indigenous women and girls want forensic nurses and rape kits. 82% involved in prostitution had childhood sexual abuse and incest, which is preparation for prostitution later on. 72% live with complex PTSD. This is the worst form of trauma a human being can experience. And this is the expert, Dr. Melissa Farley. 95% that are in prostitution want to leave. And notice I'm using the word prostitution. That is the legal term. I'm not using the word sex worker or sex work. That is not a legal term. In terms of the law, it is prostitution. Want to leave. It is not a choice. It is not a job. 86% have housing needs, so homelessness makes them vulnerable. 82% need drug rehabilitation because drugs and the sex industry go together. So I've been raising awareness about sexual exploitation and specifically child sexual exploitation and trafficking to every city council, MLA, MP, and police agency in BC since the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act became federal law in 2014. So I've been raising awareness about this law so the police would enforce it, so the public would understand it and be able to report it. So the law has three parts. Number one, it targets the demand by targeting the buyer of sex. The predator, trafficker, pimp, facilitator, John, and buyer of sex are criminalized. Number two, recognizes the seller of sex as a victim, usually female, and is not criminalized. That's probably not quite right. It's more that they are given immunity from prosecution. Number three, exit strategies are put in place to assist the victim out of the sex trade. So we do number 2 and 3, not too badly, but we're not doing number 1. So this law focuses on the source of the harm, the buyers of sex and the profiteers. The clear statement from Parliament was that girls and women in Canada are not for sale. Here's the RCMP poster, that they are full human beings with dignity and with human rights. Vancouver and Toronto are global sex tourism hotspots. Canada is now known, and most people don't know this, as a child sex tourism destination. You can get that information from this report. It's called the Trafficking in Persons Report 2020 from the US State Department. Council has received my handouts. Those handouts are a great place to start to address human sex trafficking, especially the handout. I like the one on child sex trafficking I gave you, 2-page. It really is great. I mean, you can put this up on your website, maybe pass it out to your stakeholders, your frontline service providers, your parents, if they could have this sheet. My website also has really helpful information. Here it is. It's brand new. It's the beamazingcampaign.org. Page 2 has got 2 teaching workshops, one for parents and one for youth. It was videotaped by the RCMP. The global sex trade is growing fast, targeting our children, because children is where the money is, fueled by the internet, where most of the luring is taking place. Contributing factors to a rapidly growing sex industry is globalization, unregulated technology, no surprise, limited law enforcement, and very, very little prevention education. And that's the piece I do. Canada has a brand new national human trafficking hotline number. I sent you the wallet card. There's the number, 1-833-900-1010. And provincially, we have OC-TIP, which has a helpline, and Victim Link. And I think I sent you pamphlets for those as well. So pornography is the fuel for the sex industry and creating the market for commercially paid sex. So men and boys are the buyers of sex and are the key to end exploitation. And I love this line. I got this from VPD. Our boys and men must understand there's a sacred part of the woman they have no right to. So what can you do in Cumberland? Well, sort of the strategy I've been given to all the city councils is really simple. You want to reduce the demand by targeting complicit businesses, and you want to diminish the supply. And that's done by education and public awareness. So train your business licensing managers what to look for when granting business licenses. This is a really effective way to give the message to the sex industry they are not welcome in your community. For example, the number 1 is unregistered massage and body rub parlors. Nail spas are probably number 2. Holistic health centers, that's the way they brand themselves. Day spas, modeling agencies, tattoo parlors, escort services, cheap bars and hotels, men's clubs, Airbnb. VRBO, casinos, strip clubs, organized crime, clubhouses, and truck stops can be typical covers for sex trafficking and exploitation. If you know of crime clubhouses, you can use land use bylaws to remove them. That's what they did in Manitoba. Regarding hotels and motels in Ontario, and that's best practices, in an effort to curb trafficking, they mandate registration of every guest who's physically in the room. This could be a consideration. The sex industry is targeting our youth, children, and the vulnerable in every BC community. And surprise, the schools are the recruiting grounds for gangs and sex trafficking, and the public don't know this. A critical deterrent are the school liaison officer program in schools. Officers prevent crime and protect the vulnerable. Any anti-police narrative harms our communities. They are the only people trained to protect us. So BC is getting further and further behind every province in Canada in both enforcing the federal law and raising awareness with prevention education. Therefore, BC and the Lower Mainland is the best place in Canada to buy and sell women and children for sex. Public awareness in BC is completely lacking. That's why I sent information packages to all 190 city councils in BC to warn you all of this rapidly growing crime. People always ask me, where do I get my stats from? Here it is. And we really don't do stats and data in Canada. It's expensive. But what's out there, and Stats Canada has just come out with their stats. They don't give numbers very well, but they show the trend is up. Anyways, there's sort of the list of where I get numbers from. And down at the bottom is the Joy Smith Foundation. She's the MP that introduced our 3 laws on human trafficking. I have been trained and mentored by her. And so, but all to say, I have been working on this issue for 40 years. We just got off this. This is the Canadian Exploitation Summit, the first of its kind. The last 2 days has been, Thursday and Friday has been exceptional. So I got to hear all the best people in the country and globally as well. So that was wonderful. So I do have 3 asks. Number 1, could I present to any other stakeholders that you know of in your community? Number 2, would you alert the Premier and the Solicitor General that this crime is a priority in BC and we need funding for provincial law enforcement, and we need a provincial awareness campaign. BC also needs an interagency human sex trafficking task force. It's what they have for drugs and gangs. It's what they do in Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia. And lastly, could you write me a letter of support? Thank you very much.
Are you open to questions, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Members of council, who would like to go first? Any questions? Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, that's terrifying. I'm really saddened to hear all that, and especially how far behind we are as a province. I myself have a 13-year-old daughter, so that's a really, really scary presentation that you just gave us. Coming on the heels of Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Women's Day, it just makes it all that much more sad to hear that Indigenous women are targeted like that, and we're obviously not doing a lot about it. So thank you for your presentation and raising awareness, and we'll certainly look at those asks.
Councillor Sullivan, did you have anything?
No, just thanks for that information. Yeah, it's very, very sad.
Councillor Sproul, you had your hand up.
Yes, I'm just wondering, I know that the RCMP are working on it collectively, but other international, I know that that's how a lot of the porn industry is examined in an international setting, and they find by working as I don't remember what the police group is. It's the organization that is
Interpol. Interpol.
Pardon? Interpol. So would they be connected in a way to what you're doing? Because
Yeah,
Yes,
very
sir.
much so. And I just want you all to know I work really closely with law enforcement. Vancouver Police Department is probably one of the best police departments in the country on dealing with this issue. Their counter exploitation unit are second to none. So they're very good. I also work really closely with the RCMP. I would not be doing what I'm doing if I didn't work closely with the police.
Mm.
So RCMP headquarters here in BC are very aware of my work. I keep them regularly updated. What's really nice is they have Indigenous police, and they are excellent, and we work together collaboratively as well. The problem is, quite frankly, is our provincial politicians. That's who we've got to win over. I do finally have a meeting. Mike Farnworth knows my work really well. I finally have a meeting with him. But generally, I would say the provincial government has been really dragging their heels on really addressing this. Now, there was a time we did have an action plan as a province to deal with human trafficking, and it expired in 2016 and has not been sort of updated at all. There's also another provincial organization called OCTIP. It's called the Office to Combat Trafficking in Persons. I got a lot of my training from them. They're excellent, but I don't find them advertising very much, and they seem to be contracting out. So I ask questions to them. It takes me days to hear back from them. I get a lot of materials from them, but they should be more cutting edge on this. So these organizations are in place. We have the resources and tools. We have the federal law to deal with it, but we're not. So I would say that there's just not the political will. They literally need to hear from civic governments. That's why I asked for letters. And I know Mike Farnworth has been getting quite a few letters. And so I think he sort of feels he has to meet with me. But I just generally, it's a provincial government. The federal government, again, we do have a federal law that I went over. That is a good thing, but we need that law enforced. And it's a provincial government that decide whether they're going to enforce it or how they're going to enforce it. So that's why I present to all three levels of government. And you are boots on the ground. You know what works in your community. And Cumberland, you all need to know, is getting famous. The mountain bikers love you. My daughter is a mountain biker and she raves about Cumberland. So you are becoming known as a tourism destination. You're charming, you're delightful, but just recognize this is what is going on globally. And we've got the internet. This is how this is all working, and it's lucrative. There's a lot of money involved with this. So, and the recruiting grounds, like I mentioned to you before, the gangs are recruiting in the schools. They're in the schools, and same with sex trafficking. We're just not talking about it, and we do need to change that narrative.
Okay. Councillor
you.
Brown?
Thanks so much for bringing that information forward. I will look into it.
Well, thank you very much, Kathy. I was really shocked at the age of the girls that they're going after nowadays. It used to be quite a bit older, but 10 years old, that is a huge issue, I'm sure. So I want to thank you very much for your presentation. It is a timely presentation for us. And as I said, I have a meeting with Island Health, and I will request what they've done in the Fraser Island Health region, and so see where that goes. Okay. So as you know, we won't make a decision tonight. That's at the next council meeting, but thank you very much. Really appreciate the time. And it's much better by Zoom than in person sometimes. It's not the traveling. You don't have to do that traveling. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
We have no unfinished business correspondence. That council received the correspondence from the Comox Valley Regional District requesting support for a regional grant application to Union of BC Municipalities Strengthening Communities Service Program.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Councillor Kettler, you're aware of this request. Would you like to speak first?
Yeah, so it's a UBCM grant that we're looking for support for the region, and it's fairly significant. It's 1.25 million to support the unsheltered homeless populations in the Comox Valley. the money would be handled through the CVRD, but as with the other monies for the homelessness support service, the decisions are made by consensus through the Coalition to End Homelessness.
Any questions? I do have a couple. One is there a time frame on how long they have the money, or does a timeline say that you have this amount of time to spend the money? Are you aware?
Yeah, I'm sure there is a time. I don't know the exact time limit on it, but I think there usually is a deadline attached to it.
The other thing I wanted to ask is when the money is run out and they have these programs in place, will then they come and ask us for funding? Is there anything like that? Are we going to be expected to fund these programs afterwards?
So if they create a program with this money, will we be asked to fund it at a later time? I couldn't answer that right now. I mean, we are funding the homelessness support service already. So money could be sought through that service. So Cumberland would be paying into that. So that's a possibility. Usually what we've been doing so far with the Homelessness Coalition is 5-year plans that just really involve bricks and mortar projects. But we are getting a little bit more into service support. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not exactly sure at this point. So, but we are already paying in. So it is possible that we might have to support the program in the future.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Who else? Someone else have any questions? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I don't have a question specifically. I just, I think it's really, it looks like a really good application. And I appreciate the work of the coalition that went into this. I think there is a great need for additional capacity at Connect and overnight shelter, and definitely community outreach workers. Hopefully those outreach workers are mobile so that they can be called out, like should we need someone in Cumberland suddenly. And public engagement would be also well placed right now, and just building capacity and understanding for the situation that these people are in, I think is really important. So happy to support.
Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to add that that our homelessness and affordable housing committee is still a member of the coalition, and so we do have a voice at that coalition.
Yes. I'm sure there'll be lots of discussion on what the money will be spent on and how it will have the biggest impact for the people that it's meant to help. Okay, someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move that council support the Comox Valley Regional District application to the Union of BC Municipalities, UBCM, Strengthening Community Services Program for grant funding in an amount up to 1.25 million through the Strengthening Community Service to provide urgent and temporary support to the unsheltered homeless populations and address related community impacts, and that council provide its support for the Comox Valley Regional District to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding on the Village of Cumberland's behalf.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Next, reports. The council received the report development permit and development variance permit 2781 Maryport Avenue.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report is coming back to you after having been to the APC, whom recommended approval. So this is for a application to legalize an existing accessory dwelling unit. And it also requires a development variance permit to allow that change of use. Yeah, they met all of the guidelines, all of the zoning requirements. If the variance gets approved, that is. Yeah, and that's sort of the summary of it.
Any questions from members of council? No, someone like to make the motion?
I'll move that council approve the 2021-02 DP development permit and 2021-02 DV development variance permit on the property described as Lot 7, Block 14, DL 21, Plan VIP 522A 2781 Maryport Avenue.
Seconder? Councillor Kettler, all in favor? Carried. Next, that council receive the development permit 2522 Dunsmuir Avenue report.
Move to
Receive.
receive.
Rule, Councillor Sullivan, all in favor? Carried.
All right, so before you have the application coming back to you from the previous council meeting, 2522 Avenue ADU. The applicant provided additional information in regards to the scale, mass, and form as brought up at the previous meeting. And yeah, I guess we're looking for council direction based on the additional information provided.
Councillor Sproul, you had your hand up?
Yeah, what is the additional material that has been provided? Is it the photographs or was this something? I'm not sure.
It was the information package. It's attached at the end of the package. So it was an amendment of information, yeah.
Yes, Councillor Sproul, continue.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 57 and the one with the photograph of with the Photoshop showing how high above the main building the roof of the ADU is. But I'm not sure. It looks on page 57 on the top left corner. If you extend the line from the main floor of the ADU to the main house, the floor begins almost on the peak, not quite, of the main house. So it's hard for me to adjust because I don't have that Photoshop, but I can only look at the picture. And it looks from the picture that very little will be showing. And yet this elevation schematic shows otherwise. Is there an explanation for that? Do you understand? If you follow out the main floor, it comes almost to the peak, the roof peak of the main house.
Sorry, just for clarification, you're comparing the original elevation drawings to the additional information package? Is that?
Yeah, with the new photograph, all that the schematic, the Photoshop picture showing the ADU and how little it will show above the roof line of the main building.
Right. Okay. The new renderings. Yeah.
The new rendering, I guess. Yes.
Okay.
I
mean, they were prepared by a registered professional architect. So I don't have the expertise of knowing how to do the renderings in detail, but I believe they'd be accurate. I know the front of the house, like the road is quite a bit lower even from the main. It's on a slope. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're standing on a flat surface and looking up. You're looking from down below.
It's really not a very steep elevation. I mean, it's not flat, but the lower part. But I was just wondering how we can check, because this picture, this diagram does show the main floor being almost at the peak of the main floor's roof. How can we have more knowledge about that? How can we verify? Because that doesn't line up with the picture. Sorry, I have to get it over here. Yeah, it's true that the road is a little bit lower, but not a huge slope. Well, anyway, I just don't see how these match the elevation drawings and the photographs, the Photoshop photographs. Who would know that?
Well, we generally do rely on the expertise of the registered professionals providing the information. We don't generally seek peer review from architects, but I mean, potentially that would be what you're asking. I guess.
Yeah, it's just that they don't quite match up. It looks like, anyway, the ADU, the majority of it, not quite, will be above or the level or above of the roof line of the original building.
Courtney, you have got your hand up?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add to what Milena said, that we did verify on, we did go on site and stand at the street and look at the renderings and the drawings together. And it did, although we aren't architects ourselves, I didn't generate them ourselves, it did seem reasonable, in our understanding that from the perspective we were at on the street where the renderings are from, that the main house being at a bit of a higher slope than the road and looking upwards, that it did, we did do that type of verification, just so you know, based on our understanding and our knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brown? Councillor Brown, you're not going to speak?
Very loud dog barking in the background, sorry. So yeah, so I have a similar, this looks to just be new photos that are photoshopped. So I just the subfloor looks to be, as Councillor Sproul said, looks to be in line with the peak of the building on the property. And the height of the building from that subfloor is 6.4 something, I can't quite read it from the diagram, meters tall. So even if it's there's a slope down to the street there, that the ADU is still 6.5 meters taller than the adjacent building. So my concern was in the beginning, the height, the mass of the building, and it continues to be the same. Nothing has changed. The applicant has not revised their plan at all, and the drawings are the same. So my concern is the same, that this particular ADU is not congruent with the adjacent buildings, as the guidelines suggest. So my interpretation of the guidelines is different than what staff are seeing. And I think something that's 6.5 meters taller than the adjacent buildings is significantly higher. So.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan, did you want to comment?
Yeah, for community desperate for rental housing, I'm really excited to move this motion. And I'm very happy with the ADU.
Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, I want to thank the applicant for getting the extra architectural drawings, and I do understand the perspective that they give from the street and how they're showing that there will be very little impact to the street view. So I'm quite happy with the extra lengths that they went to, and happy to pass this.
Okay. Well, I would like to at first thank all the residents for their letters. We got quite a substantial amount, and there's many points were brought up in the letters and varying opinions. But this is the process. This is not the process for many of those requests in the letters. And we will be looking at different options of addressing some of those issues in the future. And the council has the right to ask questions and ask for changes within the guidelines of ADUs. I know that came up, and we have that right to ask for changes. So I just want to clarify that with people. And I'd just like to say that the two items that I had brought up could not be moved on because they were not included in the motion. So I thank the applicant for including the picture of what the ADU would look like from Camp Road. And I have no problem with it. It certainly brought the ADU into perspective for me. So I will be supporting the application. So if somebody would like to make the motion.
I'll speak.
Yes, Councillor Sproul?
No,
Yes.
I'll speak against it. I jumped the gun a bit by putting my hand up. So when we get to second.
Okay.
I'll move that council, having considered the additional information regarding the design related to the scale, mass, and form of the adjacent building, approve development permit 2021-01 DP for an accessory dwelling unit on property described as Lot 6, DL 24, Plan VIP 13640, 2522 Dunsmuir Avenue, in accordance with Schedule C architectural elevations of the development permit.
Seconder?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? Yes, Councillor Sproul?
Yes. I still haven't had my concerns about privacy or reduction in privacy from this extra material, and going through it all again. Also, the big sheaf of letters that we got. I was going to read them all out, but I think everybody knows what the concerns are. Because just the sighting of it being up a steep slope and towering over the neighbors. I see nothing to make me change my vote.
Unfortunately, we could not look at privacy because it was not included in the motion.
It's part of scale, mass, and form.
But it was not included in the motion that was presented at the last council meeting, so we cannot address privacy. Okay, so I'll ask for all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Brown, Councillor Sproul. Motion carried. Okay, next, that council received the COVID-19 restart funding report.
Receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Welcome, Kaylin.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Council, pleasure to be in front of you again. You have in front of you the next iteration of our restart report and funding. As you can see, a lot of this is stuff that we talked about in our previous report, and we've kind of brought forward to get your direct direction as in recommendations on how to address. You can see through my recommendations there's a number of things that I want you to address or to direct some of this funding towards. I can go through them one by one, or we could simply just open up for questions if there's anything in particular. I think you're familiar with the majority of it. So maybe I'll just put it to you for questions if that's okay.
Yes, anyone have any questions or want one of the items expanded upon?
Hi.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'm curious about the signage. So there's a few things, the signage, and then the downtown improvements, the expansion of public walkways or safety barriers. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Brown. Absolutely. Let's start with the downtown, and a lot of these temporary dining spaces in the Dunsmuir core, permits for businesses, as well as sort of our safety and additional walkway stuff is these is coming out of conversations that we've had with the CBA, the letter that council received from the CBA, and just some ideas that we've put forward on how we can kind of address the feeling of comfort and safety and security, especially in these times of COVID in our downtown core. So notably talking about walkways and stuff, and maybe it's the $20,000 that we're asking is to set aside so we can look at areas and talk to our businesses, particularly Love's Ice Cream, the bakery, Bibliotaco. These places are food service places that tend to have a lot of mustering, a lot of lineups. Can we expand a bit of space? Can we put some concrete barriers around their patios if they have outdoor patios, or can we put some barriers around walking space, just to give that people, if there's people lining up, that there still have flow and lots of room around our busy areas in our downtown core. That's what that incentive is about, that idea is about. We don't know exactly where, and this will kind of happen with a conversation with local businesses to get a better understanding of how we can support them. But this funding will give us a means of simple concrete barriers or other types of walkways that we can help them out with. And same with the wayfinding signage. I mean, this is something I think we've talked about in these meetings a fair bit, is people come into our community, are we doing a good enough job of directing them to where different public facilities and spaces, parking spaces are especially. So that wayfinding signage, building on stuff that we already have at the corner of Forest and Dunsmuir, you know, with the signs that we by the ambulance station, we have different directional signs. Can we do a better job of directing them to Village Park parking lot, the cultural center parking lot, and letting them know where amenities and facilities are in town? The CBA is very also interested in adding a service directional sign as well, like you see in many communities, so they know what types of business services and organizations we have to offer. So this first step is to help with the public health side of things right now, is getting people to know how to organize and disperse in our community. And from there, we'll work with community partners like the CBA to build it into something a bit more, I imagine, down the road.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Thanks. Thanks, Kaylin. That sounds great. I guess I'm trying to reconcile the excessive. So I'm trying to reconcile how we can create these extra spaces and not have to build the walk around platform thingies that the patio people have done. So maybe we keep the sidewalk as the accessible route and we route other pedestrians around. I'm hoping you have some ideas around how to make that happen.
You know, and for some of our businesses, they've already established their patios, so they've had them for years, and so we'll work with what they have. Fortunately, we only have a handful of them in our community, just a few of them. But I agree, we need to be mindful of where we're putting people. Are we putting the pedestrians out into the street side where young kids can trip over or fall? Do we need concrete barriers? So I think that's why our ask is the way we are, so we can make sure that safety is looked after first. And then we can do things in the way. And this is we're gonna have to talk to our businesses and stuff to make sure that what we're doing is helping them and what we're doing is helping the businesses around them, because you see a bit of overlap on this, especially in that central block of Dunsmuir. You see people waiting for food, standing in front of other businesses, in front of our libraries, in front of our post offices. Let's make sure that people can get in and out of these places as well, feeling safely.
Yeah, and I think the tent can help do that. Like if we can put the tents in the parking spaces and create those as seating areas so that people are still on the safety of the sidewalk for walking, but like add those spaces in the parking spaces where appropriate. That might be a way to have safety and also more seating and also less crowds.
And I can confirm that through Kevin that we have ordered the additional picnic tables. We'll have the first here by the end of May. And we've already started that process of identifying spots in downtown and going back now and talking to businesses to make sure that works. And so the idea is to put some picnics and extra dining spaces in Village Square, around the cultural center and spaces, public spaces, kind of bookending the downtown so that we can give them a place to go once they're done standing in line. Yep.
Awesome.
Anyone else? Councillor Kettler.
Yeah, I just wondered if you could expand a little bit on the communications plan and maybe whether that might include a hire at the end of it, possibly.
Yeah, well, we're always very mindful, Councillor Kettler, of capacity and adding more. But I think the communication strategy, if I can, is just a really important piece for us as staff on giving us direction about how we communicate with the public, who are our clients, and making sure that we're getting information to them effectively. And that's right from how we use social media, which we don't consistently across our office because we don't really have a policy or practice on how that's done well. But right down to our reporting and the information and when we provide information out. So really tying those things and taking a good close look at how we communicate with the community and making sure that we're taking full advantage of all the opportunities. You know, we've got big projects on the go. I know our wastewater is something that probably we were going to want to communicate clearly. So this type of strategy really allows us and gives us as staff the tools and the comfort of the framework on how we do that type of communication and consistency. And so it'll certainly, I imagine, identify both how we communicate with the public, but as well as how that's managed internally as far as work plans and staffing and stuff.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I didn't ask about the signs, whether or not the signs would be, some of them allocated to our main entrances for bikers.
For the big signs?
Well, it just says council allocates 5,000 towards installation of pedestrian safety signage and or speed signs or indicators. So I'm not sure whether that's for traffic or for bike traffic or for both, or.
I think it's for everything. I think we've just recognized in the community, I think that little speed sign outside the new fire hall is the type of idea that we're talking about, is something that, one, we can use to raise awareness around speed zones and where people drive, but also just be able to raise awareness around potentially where pedestrian and kids crossings are. And so having some of these tools allow us to work with someone like the PAC to identify where safe school routes are, and maybe put a little bit more resources into making sure the kids are using them safely and that type of stuff. So, you know, an extra speed sign, you know, other areas that we can put them up in different parts of the neighborhood and move them around and really support the community in identifying, you know, where people are driving too fast or so on and so forth.
Okay, I'm hoping that we can use some of that funding to address the issues on Comox Lake Road in particular. So there's an awful lot of people parking along that road, and then there's an awful lot of people crossing that road to go to access trails. And then also there's the Sutton Row, which is a bit of a nightmare for parking on a regular, well, every weekend. And then also people on bikes actually going way too fast down that road with dogs not on leashes potentially as well, and then speeding into the trail access area. And so there's a bit of a confluence in the summer of walkers and hikers and bird watchers and people looking to go swimming in the puddles that are Perseverance Creek, and then people who are riding bikes in a fast way. So I'm hoping we can allocate some safety, like maybe some slow.
Yeah, I think that's the intention with this small amount of funding, is to create some tools that we can move around the community or have in different spaces. This is $5,000 isn't going to get us to be able to do permanent things in certain places, but maybe it's some signs and maybe some signage that, you know, high pedestrian area, and we, you know, something that we can do seasonally, and that's certainly something, and maybe something that we can move around to different parts of the community as needs arise. So, certainly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one, and I can't find out where you were talking about putting a sign down by Union Road on the Royston Cumberland Road.
Yeah, that's where, when last conversation, Mayor was talking about the wayfinding and potentially that maybe, you know, where Union Road and Cumberland Road branch, that's where we potentially send people to Village Park, and maybe there's a sign, that wayfinding sign saying here's a direct route to Village Park type idea. And so, because I know our top end of town, obviously through Fourth, right into the downtown, but as you get into Coal Valley Estates, we're getting a lot more traffic as people come up through here to get down to the mountain bike trail. So maybe there's a way strategically to use wayfinding signs to steer people in different parts of our community.
Yeah.
Any further questions? No, then we can have a motion then. It's quite lengthy.
Sorry.
I'll move it
Oh,
that
Okay, go ahead.
Go for it.
council allocate $25,000 in restart funding towards the development of a corporate communications plan and activities, and that council direct staff to apply for funding to the Island Coastal Economic Trust Economic Development Readiness Program to support and supplement the development of a corporate communications plan. That council allocate $2,500 in restart funding toward additional janitorial services. That council allocate $20,000 in restart funding toward increased COVID-19 related bylaw services. And that council allocate $20,000 in restart funding to support downtown improvements, including the expansion of public walkways and/or safety barriers for patio areas. And that council allocate $20,000 in restart funding toward the installation of village wayfinding signage, and that council directs staff to apply for funding to the Island Coastal Economic Trust Economic Development Readiness Program to support and supplement the development of wayfinding signage. And that council allocate $5,000 in restart funding toward the installation of pedestrian safety signage and/or speed signs / indicators. And that council recommends staff work with the Cumberland Business Association in addressing the requests / recommendations outlined in their letter to council on April 15th, 2021, as well as those overlapping interests identified within the COVID-19 restart funding report. And finally, that council waive all 2021 permit application fees for a sidewalk cafe permit and/or refund those permitting fees already paid for a 2021 sidewalk cafe permit as a special 2021 COVID recovery initiative in support of all local businesses.
Seconder.
Second.
Councillor Sproul. And I have one question before I call the vote, and that's to Clayton and Kalen. There was other items put on the list and they're not here. So are they put in a parking lot to address later?
Thank you, your Mayor, Clayton, if I may. You'll recognize there's two bigger projects that have been pushed down the list, and they're in there. Covered outdoor spaces for the community, as well as the outdoor washrooms in Village Square. And we've simply acknowledged, because we don't have existing plans right now to do those scales of projects, nor is it in any of our work plans as sort of a priority, a strategic priority right now, that we look at these projects as a longer term idea and not necessarily in the restart funding sort of arena. So, but it's on the list. It's still there, Mayor. And if we see an opportunity and then the timing's right, we'll bring it forward. But it's always there for discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Sullivan?
Are we still talking about partnering with the school district with those outdoor covered coverage?
Yeah, and that's, sorry, Councillor, through the Mayor, absolutely. I think that's part of the opportunity with these projects. There's other areas that we might be able to address and be able to create these opportunities. And so, you know, it would be short-sighted, I think, to jump out and spend a bunch of money right now where we have other opportunities where we could see it come to fruition.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Next, council members' monthly reports. Councillor Kettler, you're first.
All right, I actually have to bring it up because I don't remember last month. But maybe I'll just say, you know, it's there. It's lengthy as usual, and yeah, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. We saw the Strengthening Communities grant that went through the board on April 13th come to us tonight. Yeah, we're still working with the region for the Emergency Operations Center Policy Group. And yeah, we had a good training session through the regional district on Indigenous awareness. And the instructor for that's Flavio Caron.
Any
I have a
questions? Councillor Brown?
I'm not, well, I'll let you decide. The third meeting to discuss future of regional economic development services in the Comox Valley. Anything else you can tell us about that? Potentially positive move.
Yeah, so it's a statutory process as the town of Comox had given the regional district a letter initiating the service review and looking at their participation in the economic development service. And so everybody who is currently participating gets to look at the service and basically have a conversation about their satisfaction with it and what they want that service to look like in the future. And so, yeah, we're on our third meeting and no resolution yet.
But all moving in the right direction, I presume, or in some direction, different direction. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kettler. Mine is next, and it was a very busy month. And I did attend a number of conferences, and it's the first time I've been able to attend the BC Council of Forest Industry Conference. And it was very interesting conference, to say. And the good thing is that once you've seen them or been part of, they send you the recording. So if any member on council wants to see what was said, they're welcome. I can email you my info, and you can go on and hear about what they had to say. Yes, and leave it to you to take from it what you wish to take from it. I did attend the Cumberland Business Association meeting with 10 other members, and I will say that Kirsten did an excellent job of describing the grants and the process for applying for the grants. She was so positive and so forthcoming in the information. It was really nice to hear the amount of work that she put into the research for those grants to help the other businesses. It was really good to see. And saying goodbye to Nan and Murray, that was sort of sad, but they were so happy to be going. And they have sent us pictures of where they're at in Tassus, and they're fitting in quite well, as we knew they would. The other thing that I would like to talk about is, Earth Day. The Cumberland Rotary got together and did a cleanup. And they did actually cover 27 kilometers of road in the village and cleaned up. They removed over 2 tons of trash on the roads. And what happened was the Community Forest Society wanted to clean up or add more cleanup to the Colliery Trail. So they partnered with us also. The Rotary Club was not allowed to advertise. They could only use the existing members of Rotary and the Community Forest Society to do this because of COVID. And all the rules and regulations were followed, but it was a very successful day. And they figured they put in over 79 man-hours of volunteer work. And hopefully we can do it again next year. And I haven't heard how they did, but we were in a competition with the other Rotary clubs. And so I haven't had the update yet as how we did compared to the others. But it was a fun day. And down at the end of my report, there was a mistake made. But I was invited to attend a meeting in Mission, BC concerning the new Green Deal. And Councillor Kettler couldn't attend. She had another commitment. But we talked for about an hour about what we were doing here in the village as far as the environment was concerned, and they were very impressed. and they wanted to know how to get their council in Mission on board with a lot of the incentives. And my big focal point was get the youth involved. It's really hard for a council to say no to children. So that's what they're going to be looking at. And the last was the Chief Elected Official Forum by Zoom. Wonderful conference, excellent information. I was in with other mayors from all over British Columbia. We all have exactly the same problems. Every community in BC is going through the same thing we are: development, growth, and all that wonderful things that come with it. So it was really interesting to listen to their take and how they're dealing with it. So yeah, it was very interesting. And during the month, met with many residents and answered many emails. Any questions? The one other thing is the last month I gave a report on, it was in my report, but I never got to say it because we decided we were running so late that we wouldn't give our monthly reports. But I wanted to remind everybody about Carter Woods, who is on the national biking team, mountain biking team, and he's doing extremely well. And you can watch an update of him on Facebook, and just wish him all the best. He's doing fantastic in his racing. So thank you. Next, we have Councillor Brown.
Thank you. What? It's all there. Oh, the Earth Day. The speaking of kids, they're not kids. They're much older than kids. The Comox Youth Climate Council did a storytelling event for Earth Day, and I've put a link in my report, and I encourage you all to listen to their stories. They were super powerful and really well done. Just very much appreciating having those young activists in our community pushing us along a good road. And I also attended the CBA's emergency COVID response meeting. And I do want to just reiterate how important it is for all of us in the village to be supporting our local businesses as much as possible, whether that's in person or online. They contribute so much to our community, whether they're on the downtown, on the strip in the middle of the community, or whether they're a home-based business. They are all so much more than that, and they are suffering in a big way. And like Mayor Baird said, Kirsten Werner went through all the grants and opportunities, and it was surprising to me to hear how little, we think, oh, they've got this rental subsidy, so they'll be fine, they don't have to pay rent, but it's actually only a very small percentage of your rent that gets paid. A lot of the grants just aren't doing what they need to be doing, and a lot of them are loans that need to be paid back. So these are businesses that are providing employment and contributing to our nonprofits and all the other good things. So whatever we can do to support them is very much appreciated. That was a bit of a thing. That's it.
Okay. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. We've got the hospital board. We had our strategic priorities report come back from the consultant. There were 5 major, or the main priorities were identified. On the top of the list for basically everyone was mental health and addiction, home care, long-term care, rural needs, and acute care. It's found that more than 50% of the board is interested in expanding the mandate, and up to 70%, in between 50 and 70. Some people were really wanting that, and some people were just interested in getting some more information. So that will be coming forward. The motion came out from that staff prepare a report on innovative funding options, community health and service hubs, and rural clinic grants. and that staff prepare opportunities to collaborate with Island Health on transitional care and restorative health facilities. So they're kind of looking at maybe another hub or something, but further reports will come out from that. And they're also going to be updating the MOU with Island Health. So there's a lot of conversation about Island Health's relationship with the regional district, hospital districts all over the island. And it's just been found that there just needs to be more collaboration. And so that's going to be forthcoming. And the Waste Management Board, there's the Ocean Legacy Foundation, Ocean Plastics Depot is going to be coming to the Waste Management Center. And since 2016, the Waste Management Center has waived over $21,000 in tipping fees of approximately 180 tons of derelict vessels and ocean plastics. So there's a provincial grant coming that allows, that covers the costs for the CSWM to waive those fees, and those will just be getting waived until those funds run out. The Regional Organics Compost Project Facility update, the detailed design is underway with completion expected and fully commissioned by fall 2022, which is pretty quick. So that's good. And a conversation about an upcoming report about construction and demolition waste, which is kind of one of the bigger issues now at the Waste Management Center. And so there's going to be speakers coming in June, and there's going to be more wholesome conversations about diversion. And I've been approached by a couple of community members about more diversion, i.e. some sort of like a free store or something, a restore situation. And I mean, going into the future, the diversion of the land of the waste is just so important. And I think that more and more people are realizing that just stuff that can be repurposed is getting thrown away all the time. And so I'm going to be kind of pushing on that and just sort of starting to flesh that out a little bit more. And there's conversations with some of the CVRD and stuff starting around that. So hopefully we'll get some traction on that coming up. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I was searching for your report and I don't see it. Did it come late, or where is it? Is it not in our packet? Oh,
I gave my verbal report.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks. And thanks for pushing for the diversion. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Sproul.
Oh, well, the question I have, I know that as more and more garbage is being diverted, there's less and less people paying towards the costs of operating the, I nearly said the dump, the land, the landfill. So is that still an issue? Like they seem to, I've always thought they seem to run contrary to each other, because the more you divert, the less it's being buried, and that's it. How does the financing of the landfill work?
Well, the tipping fees definitely take care of most of those still. Okay. And it's just moving forward as a corporation, the diversion is just necessary. I mean, the bill is just not indefinite, right? So it's part of the future moving forward to divert as much of everything as possible all the time for as long as we can, kind of thing. So just trying to figure out those things are coming up. So, but yeah, the tipping fees pay for most all that stuff for sure. Still, they still make quite a good bit on the tipping fees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sproul, it's your report now.
Oh yes, well, you can see my report. I got to see say goodbye to Mary and Nan at a separate event because I wasn't at that one, but I am going there in person as part of my adventures on Vancouver Island in the camper van. I'm intrigued, actually. And got my COVID vaccination. I hope everybody who's eligible can get it. I wish they gave us stickers, just like at the blood donation clinic that said, I got my vaccine today, because I am meeting people with resistance, friends who are not going to get vaccines. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if people who are in municipal politics or teachers had a sticker saying that they've done it? It might make people more vaccine friendly. Anyway, I think it's available to most everybody. So soon we'll
thank
be.
Okay, can we have a motion to accept, to receive? Councillor Sproul, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried. No new business, notice motions and announcements. None tonight. Question period, would you
Oh,
please?
we forgot
No, missing-
item 7.1.
Bylaws. Oh, I'm ticking too fast.
Ah.
This is amazing to be finished at this time of the night. Bylaw, that's you guys.
I'll move the council adopt 2021 property tax rates bylaw number 1148, 2021.
Second, Councillor Sproul. All in favor? Carried. Yeah, Michelle would be a little upset. Thank you very much, Sean, for bringing that back. Okay, we do have question period. Please send to email info@cumberland.ca and using subject line question period, and we will answer your questions. But I also would like to remind everybody that the May long weekend is coming up, and the May Queen ceremony is actually taking place. And they did contact public health to make sure that what they were doing was okay. And they gave them the okay. It will be a private ceremony held outdoors, and it will be only the May Queen party, no parents, no visitors. And it will be filmed by Fox and Bee. And so you'll be able to watch it on the 24th. And did all of you get an invite to the parade?
No.
Well, they're holding the parade, same as last year, by vehicle. Okay. And so if you want to decorate your vehicle and come in the parade, you're more than welcome to. And we'll be going up and down the streets for everyone. I'm going to find out why you didn't get an invite. Okay. I didn't get one either. So.
But we don't seem to have a box anymore in the office where we get invites.
Yes, it does. It's right here in this office.
No.
Your agendas and everything, they got their names on them. Gwen, Sean, Vicky. I don't see one for Jesse, but we'll get you one. There was shortage, but there's nothing in there right now.
Okay.
But I'll find out from them why you haven't been invited to the actual parade. So because there's no contact, we're all in our own vehicles.
Okay.
And we couldn't do it by bike. We have to do it by cars.
It's too much because we were an hour and a half last year on the roads we went to, and they're going to try and hit more roads this year. So nothing's missed. So if you want to bike it, you go right ahead.
I thought we weren't allowed to for last year.
Yeah,
I thought
you're not to do it.
no to bike. I mean, I thought we weren't allowed.
Yeah, no, it's such a long way.
Yeah.
It would, and yeah, you look at some of the roads and where we're going up and down hills and everything. So yeah. Sorry, Rachel. Oh, sorry.
Does council have any input on the route?
The same person that did it last year is doing it again, but there is a difference this year.
Camp Road, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's being taken
Funny.
care of. That's being taken care of.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Rachel, any comments? Anything?
Before, if Mayor Baird will allow, I do have a couple of committee meetings coming up that didn't make it onto the agenda. The APC is meeting on May 13th at 4 p.m. I believe, and if people would like to attend, they can email planning@cumberland.ca. And we'll be provided the Zoom link for that meeting. And it looks like Accessibility Committee is meeting on May 20th in the morning, I think about 10:30 next week.
Do you know what time the APC is meeting?
I believe it's 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
The agenda is on the website.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's it? No questions?
there is one question.
Mhm.
We received a question this morning. Let me pull it up here. So we had a question about the COVID funding and whether or not benches could be put along different streets in the community, from the Bevan Road area to downtown and around the Seniors Lodge for
So-
people who need to rest if they're coming into town.
Are they referring to the bus benches or just normal benches?
Yes, normal benches on particular walking routes.
Okay.
For people
That's
to-
a good point. We can look at that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that has been passed along to the Economic Development Officer as well.
Thank you. Okay. Great. Okay, so it's a close the meeting to the public. There is a recommendation there. Somebody want to move it?
I move the council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90 of the community charter to consider the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, information that is prohibited, or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Law, the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment.
Seconder? Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried. And just to remind everybody, please be safe and comply to the orders of the public health. It would really help us in this situation. We want to get those numbers down so we can open up for the summer. So a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Seconder, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.